A group of Russian infantrymen attempting to entrench themselves in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region have been captured, National Guard Commander Alexander Pivnenko revealed. The operation to capture Russians was carried out by Ukrainian National Guard forces. In the Kupyansk sector, a group of enemy infantry attempting to secure a position within the area of responsibility of the 2nd Rapid Response Battalion of the 15th NGU Brigade, Karabakh, was taken prisoner, Pivnenko announced via telegram on Sunday, alongside footage of the capture. The two detained Russians, born in 1962 and 1968, said they were deployed to the front in December, though they did not disclose their unit affiliation. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones were key to locating the group. The occupiers decided not to tempt fate and made the right choice, to surrender and stay alive, Pivnenko said. It should be noted that Kupyansk has been under Ukrainian control since the autumn 2022, when Ukrainian commanders retook it amid a surprise offensive in the Kharkiv region.
Прописан Татарстан, Алексеевский район, ПГТ Алексеевская, Октябрьская, 22.
Когда и каким военкоматом призван?
Нижний Новгород. В декабре, в конце 24 декабря 24 года.
В каком подразделении проходил службу?
Подразделение 14-28.
Какая рота? Взвод? 9-я рота, взвод.
9-я рота просто.
Панов Василий Владимирович, 1962 года рождения. Прописан. Орловская область, Сосковский район, деревня Катыши.
Когда каким военкоматом прибыл?
Орловским военкоматом, город Орел. Проходил.
В каком году? Дата?
В каком году? Вот 20, по-моему, 6 декабря 2004 года. Ну, 4 месяц только.
24-го года, не 2004-го.
А, 24-го года. Пардон, извините, 24-го года.
В каком подразделении проходил службу?
12, как она правильно называется?
28.
Да, 12-28.
14-28.
14-28, 9-я рота.
На какой посаде?
Как она? Закреп. Мы на закрепе шли.
Elderly Russian dictator Putin, 72, is increasingly losing support, even within his own orbit. As the New York Times reports, Putin's stubborn refusal to compromise on Ukraine has irritated senior Kremlin figures, especially amid pressure from the Trump administration. For 2 decades, Ukraine has repeatedly thwarted Putin's imperial dreams, from the failure of the so-called Novorossiya to the failure of the Blitzkrieg in 2022. His current attempt at revenge, a protracted war to gain full control over 4 occupied regions, is becoming an increasingly solitary crusade. Even within the walls of the Kremlin, questions are increasingly being asked. Is it time to stop? After US President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio openly warned that Washington's patience is running out and the US could walk out of the talks, Moscow began to panic. Fear of further escalation is growing, but Putin, as the NYT notes, continues to stick to his line: no step back, no day of silence until Ukraine capitulates on his terms. The Kremlin's demands include the complete withdrawal of the Ukrainian armed forces from the Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk and Luhansk regions, as well as the refusal to join NATO. These conditions essentially duplicate the ultimatum that Putin voiced back in the summer of 2024. Since then, not a single step forward. According to the American newspaper, some people connected to the Kremlin elite admit they are shocked by how intransigent Putin is even now. One source said the dictator's behavior after the ceasefire proposal was more stubborn than expected. Even under the threat of a breakdown in negotiations with the United States and a possible increase in combat losses, Putin refuses to take a temporary pause. Meanwhile, Ukraine, which formally agreed to a ceasefire, continues to receive hundreds of strikes on its territory, shells, drones and missiles. The Russian army violates its own ceasefire announcement, and the Ukrainian military responds in accordance with the actual combat situation. Against the backdrop of Putin's political stubbornness, Russia's economy continues to stall feverishly. Inflation, caused by years of military spending and sanctions, is eating away at the incomes of ordinary citizens. Bank rates have reached 21%, effectively strangling lending, business and consumption. In 3 years of full-scale war, the Kremlin has already burned more than 2/3 of the liquid assets of the National Welfare Fund, about 7 trillion rubles. The budget is cracking. While social programs are being cut and Russians are uniting under the weight of constantly rising prices, shortages of imported goods and the collapse of the ruble. More and more people are realizing that the price of Putin's war is not only blood on the front lines, but also devastation in their own wallets. The publication emphasizes, despite the imitation of peaceful intentions, the Kremlin is not ready for any agreement unless it includes total recognition of all Russian demands. But time is not on Putin's side. His inexorable stubbornness is beginning to cause more and more irritation within its own vertical of power. Russians, even in the highest offices, are beginning to ask themselves, is it worth shedding blood and destroying the country for the sake of the ambitions of one stubborn old man who is again haunted by Ukraine's victories?
Units of the Ukrainian Defense Forces were able to push back Russian occupiers in the Yudakny area of Donetsk Oblast. So, Ukrainian armed forces rejected the enemy and restored positions in the Donetsk region. This is discussed in a message on Telegram from the analytical resource Deep State. It is specified that the enemy managed to advance in the Kamenskoye area of the Zaporizhia region and in Dneproenergia of the Donetsk region. The Ukrainian Defense Forces have pushed back the enemy south of Yudakny. The enemy has advanced near Kamenskoye and in Dneproenergia, the statement said. Earlier it was reported that the Russian Federation was going to attack with new reserves. The enemy tried unsuccessfully to carry out assault actions. The Russian Federation's attempts to improve the tactical situation were futile. Let us recall that Deep State named the direction of the enemy's advance. The Russians continue to advance in the area of the Zarabets River. Even during the battle for Terny, the enemy was probing the possibilities of entering Yampolovka and found a place northeast of the village, where he sent his infantry, the report states. It is also noted that today part of the settlement is under enemy control and in the gray zone, where the defense forces continue to strike the enemy in attempts to gain a foothold in the village and occupy it completely. An unpleasant situation for the fighters of the 63rd Brigade, for whom the flank is open, despite the fact that the brigade has been successfully holding its area of responsibility for many years, the statement said. Recall that earlier it was reported that Ukrainian forces are successfully advancing in the Belgorod region. The Ukrainian army is attacking in the areas of Demidovka, Grafovka, and Prilesy.